All right, now I'm testing. Yes, it works on my phone.
You have to do it that way. Can't you just like throw it up there and then just have one?
We apologize to those who have joined us, expecting the meeting to start by now. We're having a little bit of a technical challenge because this is for the first time we're using Zoom and a live chamber. So if you'll just be patient for another couple of minutes, we'll try to get squared away here and get started with the meeting. Thank you.
To Oscar's office. So Shane, we'll be able to hear anyone that we're looking at.
I think so. I think so.
If I turn it in, that's the way we do it. Wait, I can't do that. You just turn it off. I can't see a place on Zoom and you can do it. I'll just leave the meeting right now.
What's that?
I can just shut mine down.
I think so. Yeah, I have a hard time getting.
We don't need that. Well, yeah, you don't need that because Shane's gonna have his laptop.
Thanks.
Everybody first time here.
We seriously tried out last time. Never failed.
I'm off, and this is on, then you can hear us.
In order to see people online, we can.
Yeah, we ought to have someone,
It's gonna get.
our clock is dead. So Chief William, if you speak, can we hear you?
Can you hear me? Test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
We're not hearing him. Oh, that's crazy. That's the microphone. Hang on a second, we're still trying to.
Yeah, I hear that really well.
Hey, try again, Chief William.
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe.
I'll try it.
Testing 1, 3, 4, 5.
One more time, please.
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, that's gonna be good enough. We're gonna have to listen up.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started with our meeting tonight. I'd like to welcome everybody who's joining us online, as well as those who are in the audience here live tonight. This will be our first city council meeting live since March, I believe. We're glad to have you here and be able to meet as a quorum today. We'll start with the roll call, starting down at this end.
Jason Phelan, present.
Greg Warden, present.
Troy Stout, present.
Lon Lot, present.
We'd like to welcome online our police chief. I apologize, I can't see everybody who's there. Our police chief, Brian Williams, city attorney, David Church. Is Reed with us tonight? He's not with us, okay. And Shane Sorensen, who's our city manager, sitting here in the chambers with us tonight. We'll start with an opening prayer, and Greg Gordon is free to do that.
Our dear Father in heaven, we are grateful for all thy blessings, for the blessing of freedom and democracy. We thank thee for thy guiding hand and support and love in our lives. We ask for thy support and assistance as we make decisions and work together to determine what would be best for this city now and in the future. We pray for thy guidance and spirit to be with us, and we are so grateful for all that thou hast done for us. We ask a special blessing on all those who are in need and in difficult circumstances at this time. We do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Greg. Ed Bush has agreed to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ed. Moving to the consent calendar, minutes and a few miscellaneous items there. If all of you have had a chance to go up and see the new paved access to Lambert Park, it looks really great. It has helped resolve some mud and dust issues there and give us a great entry into the new parking area. I've seen quite a bit of use there. I either ride through there or park there a few times a week, and it's getting a lot of good use. So it's also nice to see the park being utilized as much as it is today. Any questions or thoughts on the consent calendar before we have a motion?
I just have one quick thing, but I'll send that over line. That's okay.
Yeah.
Just clarification on page 4, line 16. It doesn't really specify that I was talking about the parking, how to encourage people to park. There's a couple issues there, speeding and all those type of things. I'll just send it over line.
Okay. All right.
Also, I had one that I have sent to Bonnie, just a clarification as well. Though I was mayor pro tem then, but I did vote on every item, and I asked her to put that in.
And I didn't notice, is that done?
Well, she will put it
In the
in.
revision?
Yeah, it was only 4 votes on everything, and there were 5 others present. So that is going to be taken care of as well in correction to the minutes.
Okay. If there are no other questions, we will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent calendar as with the changes that Jason will give to Bonnie and that I have made.
Okay, we have a second to that motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Lon Lott, a second by Carla Merrill. Unless there are any further questions or comments on the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to public comment. It's nice to be in a position where we can actually have public comment tonight. And I'd like to welcome all 3 of you who have joined us tonight. Thank you for coming down and spending a little bit of time with us. We'll now turn the time over and recognize anybody who'd like to come forward to the pulpit. And if you come, please give us your name, your full name and address before you make your statement. And with that, we'll turn over time to the public.
Ed Bush, oh, there I am right there. Ed Bush, 1463 Box Elder Drive.
Originally, I sent this in as an email, and then Austin told me that we were going to actually meet in person tonight. So it's kind of a treat. I'll try to get through this. And so I start off as many of you know, probably know that my wife Judy died earlier this year after a multi-year struggle with leukemia. I'm just going to read this so I get through it. Although she was being treated and hospitalized during these years, Judy became the prime information provider and content developer for the Alpine Nature Center website. Judy loved Lambert Park, and each morning, weather and health permitting, she would embark on a 3 to 4 mile hike, camera in hand, ready to document features of the park. Through tireless research, she was able to document and catalog over 120 different flowers, trees, and bushes, and she shared her daily discoveries on the website. Here, one can find what is blooming, understand some of the history and uses of the flowers, berries, brushes, and trees of the park. Judy was always enthusiastic about sharing her fascination with nature and Alpine in general with others, and she organized many Lady Day hikes and Alpine water tour, a contest to name the boulders overlooking Alpine, which one called the Sentinels, that was the name on that one. Contest to guess how many miles of trails Lambert Park has, and developing a series of 6 hikes through the spring, summer, and early fall, documenting what flowers could be found on each of the hikes. And in our first year, we actually had souvenir buttons that we had made that could be handed out. And last but not least, the cleanup of Dry Creek up by the National Forest Service parking lot, which we hauled out, I think, a small living room worth of furniture. We were up here on that. She also contributed content that highlighted some of Alpine's many features. We do have a bit of an aviary that the family called the Elders have, where you can stop in. The Arboretum. We have downloadable panoramic views from the Alpine Cemetery with all the peaks and mountains identified. Interesting articles on the natural world around Alpine, and I'll just go through some of these. She wrote articles on sunflowers, hawks, thrushes, tarantulas, which happens to be one of our more popular ones. Tarantulas, junipers, robins, woodpeckers, doves, the penumbra, trails, acorns, glaciers, box elder trees, deer, and mountain mahogany trees and fir trees, and stories on people that make Alpine unique. All these can be found. There's a Who Knew section on the website. Judy's energy, enthusiasm, and never-ending quest for knowledge has touched and uplifted many in Alpine. Her impact in just these few short years has been very large. Now, many people I talked to after her death commented that we should name a trail in Lambert Park after her. To understand the overall interest in this memorial on the Alpine Nature Center, I added as part of that a section where people could voice their support. You could go to a section and just tap yes, or submit and tap yes if you were in favor of this idea. On the site itself, I received probably more than a little over 500 submittals so far, and they come in still daily. Additionally, after posting this on Facebook, I received nearly 1,000 affirmative responses. So at this time, I'm requesting that the City Council and the Mayor help remember Judy and recognize her by renaming a trail in Lambert Park. Now, excuse me, should have had Austin read this. There are many trails that Judy enjoyed, but my recommendation would be for the upper part of the Spring Trail. Spring's kind of a large trail as it is. It starts down, if you know the park in any way, it starts down by Middle, winds its way all the way up, and then comes all the way back down to Rodeo Up path by the rodeo driveway, the entryway there. I thought of this because it's large and can be easily divided into two. Oh, thank you.
Austin's back in his office doing this work.
Okay, it can be divided into two trails. You don't see the bottom, the blue. If I come over here just quickly so I can point out here. this is the other part of the spring trail that comes down. And then it winds its way around. And I asked for this one because typically on that trail, believe it or not, it's usually the first flowers of spring. It gets a lot of sun, tends to warm up the ground, earlier than some parts of the thing. And Judy was always in awe of the view from up there. So, that's about it. Thank you for consideration, of possibly naming a trail. It doesn't have to be a thing. I thought something like Judy's Trail or something like that would, be appropriate for.
So it looks like to me, when we look at that map, Austin, would you mind flipping that map up there, please? Are you looking at the claiming section of you're not, aren't you looking at the top down?
I'm looking at the yellow section that's highlighted here.
Right. No, it's up
goes around the
right?
top.
So what about that blue section?
That's spring up, isn't it?
Yeah, this is
No, that's next to rodeo loop.
Oh, the little connector to rodeo.
Yeah, we'll put in a connector from the parking lot that leads up to spring.
Right.
Oh, is that what?
So that is the downhill section that kind of comes close to the border of the park above the rodeo ground, right?
Yes.
You do? I think you're great. That's a hard climb.
It's easier in the spring,
Is it?
definitely easier in the middle spring.
Well, so that's kind of this, what you call the speed section, or kind of it's definitely, it's got the best views. You can
It's
see
got a
it.
tremendous view up there. And so we used to walk it in early spring, looking for some of the flowers that are very close to the ground that start to sprout up, as well as some of the evening primrose that are up there in the field. So anyway, that was just my, when I looked at the map of the park, what it may look like. So
And those tarantulas should be showing up anytime now, shouldn't they? Isn't autumn the best time? In the
What's
fall?
that?
The tarantulas, don't they make their appearance in the
tarantulas should
fall?
start showing up probably in the September timeframe.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So watch where you're stepping.
That'll spook you when you see them under your bike.
It's tarantula time,
Yeah.
September and October. That's they still start making an appearance
Yeah.
on the park trails.
Does anyone have questions for Ed? Okay. I am too, but I'm not sure, there's no process we have to go through, is there for that? I mean, we're not changing the nature of the trail in any way for the park. We just need to decide.
I mean, at some point, there's more requests for something that may have to have some kind of process, but
Yeah.
that's up to the council.
Okay, Ed, thank you very much. We'll absolutely take that into consideration and see what
Thank
we
you.
can come up with. We'll
Yeah.
stay in touch with you about that.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Is there anybody else from the public that would like to comment or ask questions? Come on forward, please. I think you came a little bit late. If you just please give us your name and address before you address the group, that would be great.
Hi, my name is Haley Collins, and I live at 564 West Sycamore Lane. And my husband sent an email earlier to the council. I don't know if it was received. May I go ahead and just read it?
Sure.
He said, "Dear Alpine City Council, thank you for discussing our email last meeting. Thank you for some of the wonderful suggestions the City Council discussed. We know you have a difficult job trying to serve all the stakeholders in these situations. Appreciate the difficulty of enacting viable solutions. Thank you for the information regarding efforts made in the past to help reduce the street parking. Regarding parking, at some point on or around August 21st, signs were posted near the curbs of the neighborhood. These signs indicated parking should be confined to the school parking lot for sporting events. On Saturday, August 22nd, Ted Spillman of the Code Compliance Department for Alpine City knocked on our door and discussed the signs with us. He noted they were not allowed to be put up and indicated he assumed that we had created and posted the sign. We wanted to make clear that to the council that we did not post those signs. We assumed the Utah Youth Soccer Association or Timberline Middle School or Alpine City had posted the signs, but we did not know specifically who had put them up. The feedback we received from some of the residents in the neighborhood is that the signs are a gesture that were appreciated. Unfortunately, they were not strictly adhered to and oftentimes seemingly ignored by the sporting event attendees. On Saturday, it was the first week for the football games, and there were well over 1,000 people who attended the games for football and cheer. As it was, the parking lot of the school was full, however, so was the street parking in and around the neighborhood from the hours of 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Individuals parked illegally next to and in front of stop signs and blocking crosswalks. Local law enforcement gave multiple tickets and warnings with the situation. We also noted one episode of concern when a boy and his dog were nearly hit by a car on Sycamore Lane as they were trying to get out and traffic was moving in both directions. We would like to recommend that if the school is going to lease the fields routinely, as opposed to a one-time event, they should also share in responsibility for risks these events incur. If their parking lot is insufficient to handle the size, they should reduce the size of the events to a more manageable number. For example, instead of 3 football games at one time, potentially have 2 games. This will help reduce the safety risk that's occurring in and around the neighborhood to residents and those who are attending. We also wanted to address that there is an issue of speeding. We would like to echo the idea presented by Councilwoman Schmoon regarding setting a unique speed limit for the surrounding streets of the schools in Alpine. We understand speeding is a problem throughout the city, but potentially posting a lower speed limit might still reduce the speed. If an individual is used to driving 10 miles over, and so typically would drive 35 down Sycamore or Long Drive, they may drive only 30 miles an hour if the posted speed limit is 20. That would increase the safety to the students and the residents of the neighborhood. We would also really appreciate any follow-up or discussion of a potential 3-way stop on Long Drive and at Sycamore. Individuals continuously roll the one-way stop and speed through that stop sign. And there have been issues with people nearly missing or hitting vehicles and other trailers that have been parked on the street. And we're hoping that potentially a 3-way stop would help mitigate that risk.
Okay, thank you very much. It's obviously an issue over there, and Shane or David, if you could answer this question, I believe we addressed a letter to the junior high school to ask them to require people to park in their parking lot. Is that correct?
We did a year or 2 ago on that. But just recently, and we did receive the email, and I was just about to bring it up when it came up. So it comes to us, and we're going to share with the council. Jen and I had a meeting with the new principal at Timberline last week. I think it was Thursday. Anyway, he was very receptive and is going to work on his end on what they can do to help alleviate some of the issues. I actually forwarded this email to him just late this afternoon. So we're trying to work through what we can. He actually contacted me Friday night and said, hey, these signs showed up. I talked to some people. We put them up. Doesn't say they didn't, so maybe it was the sports.
Yeah. We don't know who put it up though.
So the soccer
No
people,
confirmation.
the sports people also put up the cones in front of the house too.
Cones in front of the house?
Yeah, there are cones in front of the house for like a week.
In front of which house?
It's on Sycamore Lane,
It's the
right?
corner
I hear
house
people
that
call me
they-
complaining about signs.
Yeah, there's no cones. There's no cones.
Not anymore, but there were. And so I drove by and I kind of checked it, for about a week. And that's when I said, oh, people have been calling me. I'm sorry. Both ways, I think. But like I said, I've had people complain to me that that's an issue that, they can't park there. It's a city street. Right. It's an access thing. And so
We understand that. We know that the sports organizations are trying to encourage their people to park in the middle school parking lot. The problem is it's just not happening. And so all the streets along Long Drive, Sycamore, Campfire, Daly, they're all getting backed up and people are parking, unfortunately, in the red in front of the fire hydrants. And especially with football, when there are so many people coming in, it really is becoming a hazard. And so it's a real concern for us. I do know that the residents, no one put up the signs, at least the individuals that I've spoken with, put up the signs. So our assumption was it was probably the soccer association.
There's that balance that we have to strike. It's a public street with public parking available, and that's where red line the whole thing, red curve the whole thing. And that's not very practical for us to do because then your guests couldn't park there either if you had a party or had people over. So we've got to balance it, but I think asking for the school to cooperate with this, and I would even go as far as to ask the leagues to have people out in the parking lot, educating people on where they should park, maybe do that for a few weeks until people get into the habit of redirecting into the parking lot.
And with the season starting, there's no way they can change their schedule. And they,
Yeah.
you know, the league, and I'm sure that way with soccer too, will be that way in the fall. You have to do it before the season starts.
Right.
Because the entire schedule is set for the rest of the season. It would be unfair at this point. But in the future, I can see maybe curbing it so that it can be contained. Because it sounds like during game days, the parking lots get full. What I remember when my kids were playing, it was the Timberline parking lot and the Burgess Park parking lot were both full, and it did spill over. It's just that's what happened, and it would spill out for blocks.
Which is a problem that you're addressing, that we've got to figure out how to solve that because.
But that was something that I remember in planning commission, Bryce and I, we were both on the football board, and I both told the developer, hey, you're going to have issues with parking. People are going to park along these streets. Sycamore is a collector road. It was designed wider to handle more traffic.
But there's no speed limit sign on it either. Shouldn't there be one if it is a collector road?
No, from what I understand, it's 25. If it's not listed, it's 25 miles an hour.
Right.
So anywhere that you don't see speed limit signs, it's 25 miles an hour. And other than that, it's higher. And so even though it's a collector road, maybe we'll go up to 35, but we're not doing that. We're keeping it at 25.
Aren't following that, and the cops have come out several times and have ticketed. And I mean,
I have the same issue in front of my house. People are using the 25 miles an hour road also, and people are doing 35. In fact, the other day, I almost got run over just walking, trying to take my garbage can back in.
right. Our concern too, though, is it stops at the end of the middle school, and it just gets so backed up, and with all of those kids coming and going. And on my way over here, actually, to the meeting, there is a massive soccer event going on, and the parking lot has maybe 8 cars in it, and everybody else is parked up and down all the streets. So it's not on my way down just now.
I've seen it that way as well. And, it's going to take a little bit of time to work through. We've had similar issues in other parts of town, which have been mentioned, and we've kind of been able to mitigate those to a point where we're satisfied. So it will be something we'll continue to work on, and you understand the challenge. I mean, it's hard. There's, as soon as those streets opened up, before there was a single house, they started filling up with cars because everybody felt that was a shortcut to the practice fields.
Right.
And I know it's not just game day; it's practice time too.
It's every day of the week except Sunday, and unfortunately, along with all the traffic comes all the trash. We found bottles of urine and things like that lining the streets. Just because so many people.
Okay, well, thank you for your comments.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank
you. Okay, is there anyone else who would like to come up? Okay, seeing none, we will proceed with the meeting. Move on to reports and presentations. Is Jane with us on Skype or on Zoom, or were we going to get a report from somebody else?
I think Austin.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and give you a quick update on this. So can everybody hear me, hopefully?
Mayor, can I just suggest we swap these 2 items? William and is on. And I apologize, his name's spelled wrong on the agenda, but maybe since he's on, should we take care of that one and then go to the
Objection to that? Okay, so let's flip A and B. And Chief, if you'd like to introduce Val to us, we hear from you.
I will. I appreciate the time, Mayor and Council, and I just want to introduce Val Shoup. Val Shoup is the director of the Utah Chiefs of Police Association, and I'll let him explain what it is that we're doing this evening. So Val, I'll turn that over to you.
Okay, thank you. I'm the executive director for the Utah Chiefs of Police, and it's a pleasure to be here. And Mayor and Council, I appreciate that on behalf of the Utah Chiefs of Police Association. We're here this evening to present the accreditation award to the Lone Peak Police Department. Just to give you a brief background of what that is, a department that accredits in the state of Utah is accredited with the Utah Accreditation Alliance, which is administered by the Utah Chiefs of Police Association. That accreditation entails over 180 standards that they are required to show that they are in compliance. That has to do with federal, state, and city ordinances. They have to show examples that they're in compliance of that. They have to submit a report yearly that they're still in compliance and renew every 5 years. Chief William should be commended for his efforts. They have 3 years to complete this once they sign up to do it. Chief William has done his in less than a year and has been very thorough, and his staff should be complimented for that. In the times that we have going on right now in law enforcement, it's extremely important that cities know that their departments are in compliance with laws, statutes, and there'll be many more that'll be coming out. We actually have a board of directors that goes through the standards every year to take some out that shouldn't be there, put others in, and there will be several that will come out. As you know, there's a big push on use of force, chokeholds, and several others that I'm sure once our legislature has convened, we'll have to put into those standards, and we'll make sure that gets done. Having said that, it's important for you also to know that the insurance companies for the cities, Utah Local Governments Trust, IRMA, I think Columbia is part of this. They pay for this accreditation and take care of that. And I believe your city, I believe Chief William told me that the city has already been reimbursed for that accreditation to the cities. So having said that, and we also, just one other thing, we also have a sticker that they can put on their vehicle that shows they are an accredited agency. That's at the discretion of the chief. And I believe Chief William has asked for some of those, so you'll probably see those displayed on his vehicles. Having said that, I believe you probably have the plaque there that they received. And so having said that, I'll turn it over to Chief William, and congratulations to you. And we appreciate all the efforts that they've done.
So there you go. So this was the plaque that was received. We did this last week in Highlands Council meeting. As you can see on the bottom, they're all just read it. The Lone Peak Police Department approved and accredited in recognition for the completion of the standards for certification and accreditation as prescribed and mandated by the Utah Chiefs of Police Association, dated February 2020. So we completed this, and we're planning on bringing this to council back in March. But we all remember what happened back in March, and things just kind of got shut down. So we're here in August just to let you know what we've been up to. This is something that we've worked really hard for. If I could just give a quick plug for Lieutenant Jamie Brooks. He is the officer, the lieutenant that I put in charge of this. We called him our accreditation manager. And as you heard Val explain, it wasn't an easy task to get this done. There was a lot of work that went into this. Val also mentioned that there are stickers. We've started putting those on our vehicles, and you'll see them in the back windows on the driver's side of the vehicles as they drive around town. So it's just a sticker notifying that we're an accredited agency through the Utah Chiefs of Police Association. So at that, I appreciate Val. I appreciate you coming very much and taking your time out of your day. And I'll turn the time back over to you, Mayor.
Thank you, Chief. And congratulations for that accomplishment and doing it in such a short time. Really just like to publicly express our appreciation to the chief and his whole department. I think it's a very well-run, exemplary department. I think they do a terrific job. I've said this before, you know, they're here to enforce the law and act as public servants, and I think they focus on the second more than the first. Not to a fault. They do a really good job of enforcing the law, but I think they've got community first in their mind, and that really comes across when you have conversations with them. And I had a chance to spend some time with a couple of your officers last week. They're just really good people, including one of your new hires. While we're on that topic, Chief, if you wouldn't mind, could you just give us an update on how many new hires we have in the recent months since you last reported?
So that's a great question. So right now, within the last 12 months, we have hired 4 new officers. So currently we have 4 officers that are going through our field training program. We've lost a few officers, one that left in retirement, that was Lieutenant Borner, and 3 others that have chosen to go work at other agencies. But we took one from Moab, one came down from Salt Lake City, and the other 2 are brand new out of the academy. I think we have a good mix, and I think they'll be a good fit for our department and for our community. So you get a chance to meet them. They're fairly new. So, and some of them are young. You'll know they're new because they look like they're 12. Of course, that just means I'm getting older. So anyway, we've got 4 new hires in the last 12 weeks. So
that's great.
Is there any way that we can, help the citizen that went earlier and enforce parking during, especially Saturday mornings and afternoons during the football season and during the soccer season, so that people are not parking where they're not supposed to, as far as red zones, your stop signs, curbs, things like that, so that the public that are attending kind of get the message that, you know what, you still, even though if it's overflooded or overflowed, that they still need to park. Where parking,
So Carly, you're a little hard to hear, but I think what you're talking about is the parking that you were just discussing in the previous item. Yeah, that's something that we can certainly focus on, and we would encourage those residents to call if they see those issues or are having those issues, and we'll come out and to address them. There are some at times officers that are tied up on other things, and they can get out there when they can. On Saturdays, our mornings are pretty busy for us. So, but if they can give us a call, I'll also put some information out there and ask the officers to make a few extra patrols through the area and address the problem as they can.
Okay, terrific. Thank you for that report.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Val.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you, Bill.
You bet.
okay, Austin, would you like to address item A for us? Update from Planning Commission. We'll give Austin a chance to take the screen back.
There we go. I was muted. Okay. So here's a quick update from the Planning Commission. So we've been working on land use regulations and the general plan with regards to streets and connections to neighboring communities. And so what the Planning Commission looked at that. They made some modifications to the transportation element of the general plan. And then they asked that David Church give some feedback on that. And so as we've gone through the process, our attorney, David Church, has looked at that and made some recommendations, including, that we need some kind of ordinance to back up what we're pushing for in the general plan. And also that we need some updates to our transportation master plan. And so in the last Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission did look at some updates here. So what you're seeing on the screen is kind of what they've been working on, outlining and identifying some of the connections to the neighboring municipalities and making those shown on a map. And so, that's just something that we show existing and planned connections on this map. And then a new ordinance is being drafted that would kind of back that up to just emphasize the fact that that the connections that Alpine has are the ones that they've planned for, and also to preserve those existing connections. There are a few stub streets, If you look at this map, you can see we've highlighted some of those stub streets that some of them are actually seeing some new developments on the Highland side. So you will see connections made in the near future, in the next few years, probably on some of these. So anyways, they're working hard on this. There's one more element that they still need to work on. So they still have to hold a public hearing with regards to the transportation element of the general plan. And they plan to do that in the second meeting of September. So that will be coming to the city council probably towards the end of September. All of this will come together at one time. So we'll have the new transportation master plan, the new ordinance, as well as a transportation element of the general plan. So that's kind of where they're at in the process. It's been productive, and I think you'll be seeing something here in the near future. So.
Is that it, Austin? Austin, is that it?
Yes, that is everything that I have with regards to that. It's just a quick update.
Thank you. We also have some other ordinances that the planning commission will be looking at regarding building setbacks, height restrictions, things like that as well. But this is the first priority. Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to our action items. David, we want to take a moment and introduce the action item A. This is a change to an existing city ordinance. It's not state law, it's a city ordinance, which is subject to a change upon request of the city council. David?
Yes. Yeah, you confused me because you said ordinance and it's a resolution actually, but let me explain what this is. You have before you a proposed amendment to our existing resolution, which authorizes the city to hold electronic meetings. As you will recall, and the public should be aware of, the Utah Open and Public Meetings Act allows public bodies to hold electronic meetings such as this one, but requires that the city do so only after they adopt either an ordinance or resolution that establishes some rules and regulations for that. We previously adopted a resolution. That resolution required a couple of things that were not mandatory under state law, but were discretionary with the city. One of those was that a quorum of the council be present at the anchor location. Now, an anchor location is defined in the state law to be the physical location from which an electronic meeting originates. And it's a place where the public can come, monitor the meeting and participate in the meeting, such as the city hall. We chose previously to require that if anybody wanted to have an electronic meeting, and this applies to all public bodies in the city, not just the city council, that members of the public body could appear electronically, but a quorum of the public body had to be at the anchor location. One of the changes being suggested by this resolution is that we drop that requirement so that the anchor location would not necessarily have a quorum of the public body there. So your public bodies such as the city council, the planning commission, your trail committee, those kind of things could hold electronic meetings and all of the members appear electronically as long as there was an anchor location identified where the public could come, participate and monitor, or of course any member of the council could or public body could also be at the anchor location as you are today. So that's one of the changes being suggested by this resolution. The other change that I'm suggesting this resolution is previously the electronic meeting required the prior approval of a majority of the public body. I thought that was being cumbersome. So if you notice, if you look down in the resolution, in order for there to be to participate electronically, it requires the consent of the chair of the public body or a majority of the public body. so that the mayor could say, for example, or the chairman of the planning commission could say, here's the agenda, and I'm proposing that people have requested they appear electronically. And that would be allowed without having, it's cumbersome to have a vote in order to allow someone to request to appear electronically when it might come up at a very late date. The other significant change is that the state legislature, in response to this COVID and issue and the governor's emergency proclamation, has included in the Open and Public Meetings Act the procedure by which a public body can dispense in the future with the anchor location requirement. As you know, we've been meeting without an anchor location. That was being done by virtue of the governor's executive order, which suspended the enforcement of that particular section of the law. That executive order has now run out. The legislature has replaced it with the provision that you see in section 7 here, where no anchor location is required in cases of certain emergencies. So you can see that a public body may convene and conduct an electronic meeting without an anchor location, but only if the chair makes a determination that there's an anchor location is not necessary, states that in a written determination, includes it in the public notice, and that declaration cannot run more than 30 days. So there is the potential that the mayor could, for example, say no anchor location, we're still too much at risk, or the planning commission chair or the trail committee chair could do that. Those are the changes to our resolution. If you don't adopt these amendments to the resolution, our previous resolution is still in effect. And of course, the state law would still be in effect. And so the significant change by this resolution is dispensing with the requirement of a quorum being present at the anchor location for future meetings. Does that make sense? Are there any questions?
Just one on section 1, David, section 1, line 3. Can you maybe get some clarification to the?
Yeah, section 1, line 3 exists in our current resolution. It is the definition of monitor from the state law.
There's something confusing to me in there after equipment, AU of the, it doesn't read right to me.
Oh, I see that somebody's put a typo in there, probably me. Video equipment. Let's see, monitor means to hear or observe live by audio or video equipment. Let me find the word that was left out of that. I've got it right here. I'm glad you thought of that. I apologize. Copying the definition from the state code, I cut and pasted it, and I probably only cut and pasted part of it.
So if we scratch out AU of.
Well, I think there may be a couple of multiple words missing there, but I'll tell you right now. I'm just calling up my original here.
I think that this will help us in the odd chance that there's an emergency, a need for an emergency session. We had one when the fire was raging in the last fire. It's nice if in case everybody's out of town, we can still accomplish that if needed. That would be one situation I think would be resolved with this new ordinance. And it, obviously, the COVID situation is not changing quickly, so we may be in this for a while.
Yeah, where we'll also help, by the way, is on your committees like your trail committees and things like that, being able to just have a clerk or recorder do the anchor location and have all members of your trail committee who are busy people just appearing electronically instead of coming to the city. The mistake is that there's a deletion that was incomplete. So it should read by audio or video equipment and then delete out the AU so that it would read by audio or visual equipment comma, all of the public statements of each member of the public body who is participating in the meeting. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
So it'd be all of the, not AU, all of the public statements. That AU is an all.
Very good.
To approve resolution number 2020-12, and then the resolution of number 2020-1 for electronic.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, Carla, if you're speaking to me.
Yes, including the corrections of swapping out the AU to all. On
Yes.
Section 1, line 3, or to read, monitor means to hear or observe live by audio or video equipment all of the public statements of each member of the public body who is participating in the meeting.
We have a motion by, we have a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, second by Lon Lot. So we have, the motion is to accept and approve the new resolution, which allows us to have electronic meetings as needed without the need for a home base with a quorum present. This will help us do some things now in the COVID pandemic and also in the future in potential emergencies or other needs to get together electronically. Or if a council member has to travel, for example, and we don't have a full quorum, we can still complete our quorum. Okay, so are there any further questions on the motion?
The only thing is, Mr. Church also mentioned there was a comma after equipment to make it functionally.
Yes, I agree.
Equipment, comma, all.
Okay, Lon, are you okay? Okay, so we'll add the comment as well. All right, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Mayor,
Oh, sure.
I was wondering if I could do my communication super quick.
Yeah.
Shane, the stoplight on SR 92 and Lone Peak Parkway, I'm not sure who controls that, but school times have changed, so they're getting out at 12:30 every day now. And I just noticed there was a huge backup when Lone Peak lets out. Like, it's literally down to Walmart almost. I wouldn't have noticed, but I was picking somebody, I think I was going to Walmart. And so I don't know. I know that they were kind of looking at stoplight times for school start and stop times. So I'm just thinking maybe they might want to adjust it.
Both Troy and I in the past have talked to UDOT
Yeah.
about that.
If you could do that, just because it's changed.
Yeah, that needs a little bit of babysitting. And it's tough with that road construction. I wish they'd get the plates taken care of and get the cones out of the way because it's really impeding traffic. Thank you, Carla. Okay, let's move on to our next agenda item regarding the farmer's market. I love this. Do we have a presenter tonight? Come on forward if you'd like to, please. And let's see, Shane, is it best if she goes at the pulpit?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Hi.
There.
How are you? I'm Paula Nilsson. I live at 702 East Center, and I also own Balance Studio, 190.
Thank you, Paula.
Thanks. Want me to just go forward?
Yeah, just go ahead and present
Tell you
your
why
idea.
I'm here. Well, I'm here. I sent a few questions over to Austin about possibly hosting a farmer's market in my studio, in the parking lot. He originally thought it would be a mass gathering, but after I read through all the mass gathering, like, no, it's not a mass gathering. It's not that big. We don't have that much room. We don't want that many people there. We don't want that. No. But anyway, so then he said it would be a conditional use permit. So I just sent this request over, and yeah, want me just to read it? Or I know you guys all got it in your email.
Yeah.
Copy, but
Just for the sake of the public.
Oh, sure.
Maybe tuned in, you just give us kind of an outline of what you'd like to do.
You bet. Well, we bought the building back last March 2019, and it's just been such a fun location to have right there. And we just see such a nice central location in the historic Gateway commercial And yeah, you're showing a little on there. Anyway, just I love community and I love just gathering, and that's one of the biggest reasons we bought that building. I had a studio out of my basement for 18 years here in Alpine, and I have no intention of ever expanding. But when something is presented to you and you drive by and it goes bam and you get slapped in the face, you do it. So here we are. So we bought the building and totally remodeled it, and here we are, and it's been such a wonderful experience, except for COVID, but that's another story for another day that we all know about. But it's fine. We're making it do. But anyway, I just have been thinking about so many things. I mean, we had Snow Oasis there this summer. I'm sure all of you saw that, and the gathering space that it became. And really, it was fine. I mean, I was nervous going into it because there's a lot of liability and things like that. But it turned out to be a wonderful place, and lots of people came and hung out, and even in the middle of COVID. And I think they did a great job at managing that. Snow Oasis did, and I know they're super happy with their new location. Anyway, so my mind goes about 1,000,000 miles a minute always, and so I just like, this would be such a great location for a farmer's market. I don't know if you guys know, but it originally was built in 1963 as a gas station, service station, and that's why it's set back so far, and it has that large parking lot. There were pumps out there in the front. And so I'm like, what a fun place to just gather and just close down the parking lot to the studio and just have that location to just walk and to have people there with, homemade items, local produce, local artists, local musicians, whatever. I don't know about musicians, but that's another avenue, maybe someday. But anyway, so that's what I'd like to do. It's maybe pushing it to have it this year, but I'd like to try and see. It might be super, super small, and that's okay. Just to kind of get a feel for it and see, see how it goes, see how it rolls. But anyway, as you can see there, just super small, maybe 5 to 10 vendors. I haven't even started looking for anyone because I have permission to, first off. I went down to the Provo farmers market last weekend and just walked around, talked to a ton of vendors, then just researching what it takes, what permits, what this, what that, if you can sell food, if you can't, and COVID and all of that. So just been doing a lot of research, and I think it's definitely something that would be really fun for Alpine. And I think more than ever, I know all of us know that we need a sense of community, especially with Alpine Days totally being canceled, which I was really, really disappointed over. But I think we just need something. We need a gathering place where somebody could come, and who cares if they buy something or not, just come and hang out. If you want to wear a mask, I don't really care, but that's their choice. But hopefully that'll go away soon, right? But anyway, that's why I'm here.
Okay, thank you very much.
You bet.
I know we have some questions for you. So
Okay.
There's some concerns about the capacity of the location to accommodate crowds, the parking impact on the surrounding area because it's residential as well as commercial.
Sure.
And so I'll turn time over to Council. Greg, do you have anything you'd like to talk about?
I'm just curious, how many vendors and how many people do you expect at this point? I know it's hard to know.
Sure. Yeah. My plan right now is to just mark off each parking spot as a vendor. Right now I have 14 parking spots, but I doubt I would ever get that many people. Right now, I wrote on the paper maybe 5 to 10 vendors, and I don't foresee more than 50 to 60 people at one time being at that. And of course, that sounds like a lot if everyone drives, but I really want people to walk, ride bikes. Like, we don't need to drive everywhere in Alpine. We need to move our bodies. So that's my vision of it, is let's get out of our houses and
Ron, do you have any?
Yeah, just a question about Chief William, if the police chief has been notified on this, or I guess I'm looking over for Austin. If you've talked to him yet, Austin, is that part of it?
No, we have not. The chief's not aware of this. So this is something that you know, I know that Paula has said that she doesn't feel like it's mass gathering, but I think there's enough it would have enough of an impact on the streets and stuff like that, that it probably should meet the requirements of a mass gathering, which one of those requirements is that they do talk to the police chief and just run this by him. That's what we do with all mass gathering events.
Happy to talk to them. I don't believe it's a mass gathering because it's like 200, at least 250 people there. I can't remember all of it. I should have printed it out, but it's definitely not a mass gathering.
Yeah, there are certain things that are automatically that qualify as a mass gathering. And so those include fairs, festivals, races, parades, and concerts. And in my mind, this kind of fits. I don't know if it fits in those, but that's, I mean, I don't know. That's open for interpretation, I guess.
Yeah, so there may be some things to work through there. Jason, did you have anything?
No, sorry, just finished. No, it seems like a great idea. I worry about it being too small of an area for what I think the community would want to participate in. And especially in that very busy intersection anyway. It is quite a busy intersection. And I know your corner would be a very visual or, you know, a good focal point for things. I wonder if we're wanting to have that kind of thing. We have discussed this before.
I was just going to say that. We actually passed approval for a farmer's market.
For a farmer's market.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
In a bigger location.
Yeah.
So, not necessarily a private thing. It was more of a community. It was a community thing. And but I'm all for trying to do something, and maybe we consider a single shot at it, or this 2 days is all it really is, 2 different Saturdays. Just sort of like our food truck thing. We were concerned about that. It turned into be a pretty good gig. And maybe this would be a good practice run to see if a farmer's market would work and see if the community likes it.
And to that point, Lon, I looked at these 2 days and I thought, well, you know, we could, if we decided we did want to move forward with at least one date, we could predicate the second date on the success and the manageability of the first date. You know, if we found that it was, everything went well and it seemed to be an adequate size space for the event, then, you know, maybe we come to the decision that, okay, it's fine to do it again. But it would be, you know, let's get past that first mark first and go ahead and plan for the second date. And then if we have to put a stop on it or change the location, we could. But to Lon's point, you know, we did pass a vote that was made to support a Saturday market. And it was, at the time we were talking about Centennial Park here because it'd be good to bring life back to that park. But it was a nonprofit. And so I'm making an assumption that you're going to be charging some kind of a booth rate. So it'd be some kind of a revenue stream for you, right? But in the event that we move it to a public property, I don't know how that dynamic would change.
Yeah, I know. I'm just talking. I think this is a talking point right now for sure.
Right. Jason, did you have anything?
No, Lon kind of said what I was thinking. I think it's a good thing to start, try it out. It might be better to put it in the park over here after that, you know, if it's successful. I'm concerned about the parking, but I say try it once. And if the neighbors don't have a big, you know, we'll try it the second time. Maybe we, you know, you say there's 50 to 60 people. Are you talking about them being there all at the same time?
No.
Throughout the day?
Yeah, just throughout the day. Like, you know, even if say there's 10 booths and there's 5 people at each booth at one time. I mean, I'm just doing rough figures in my head.
But again, I'm for it. I think we should try it slow, and it can actually grow into something even better that we can work out if you're doing it somewhere else.
Yeah. You know, and part of the concept we discussed before in council was really something to really promote local as much as we could, right? And I think you touched on that.
And I really think locally made. I mean, I want to say handmade or homemade, but you know, those just true, like not just going and buying a bunch of junk and then reselling it, like true farmers market.
Yeah, if you attend we lived in Oregon for a while, and the Portland Saturday Market, which is also on Wednesdays, and then the Beaverton Saturday Market, all locally grown, that's a requirement. If any, I mean, a percentage of it, but it's under like 20%, the product can come from someplace outside the state, but it's a requisite that everybody must meet in order to be part of that. But I would push that even further to promote local Alpine arts and crafts, because we have a lot of talent here in
So
town.
many talent.
And so I guess that's one of the benefits of the city running it, is we can manage that community aspect of it. But it certainly could be handled by someone if they have the commitment and the agreement with the city.
Sure.
I think that's a great point, Mayor. Our general plan has mentions as one of the first goals, the agricultural preservation, and
Yes.
this may be something to support that.
Yep.
Yeah, I love that idea.
Yeah. So I would support, going forward on a conditional basis that we approve the first one, and the second one is predicated on the success and manageability of the first. So if anybody does have a contrary thought or wants to make a motion.
Well, I do want to hear then from Chief William right now, then, if that's possible, Chief, to put your 2 bits in on this.
I think the direction you're heading is good direction. Start off slow and see what kind of response that you get from the community. If it gets to be something that, that you're getting close to 150 to 200 people, we'd have to certainly look at the location and where it's being held, and then a conditional use permit on top of that. My only hesitancy in today's environment, we do get phone calls when you have larger gatherings of individuals at locations, especially if they're not social distancing. And so that would probably generate some calls from us, but it would probably just be an educational process to let them know that, I would recommend that you take precautions, that you require people to wear masks. You have hand sanitizing stations, things of that nature that we're doing in our public building. And if you're going to have a gathering of a large group, that we still need to abide by those things that we've been asked to do. So those are just my thoughts.
Thank you, Chief. And I totally agree. When you talked about being a choice to wear a mask around, I would favor. I would actually
definitely recommend it.
Well, I think more than a recommendation, it would be a stronger than recommendations.
So that would be one of the concerns I have, is to what we're required as a city to request or whatever. I've received a few different calls this week on things like that, what we are requiring, and I simply say, well, we're basing our requirements on the county's requirements. Now, I don't even know, we can't even enforce, we don't even have any enforcement on any of that. So that's, I would just worry about getting ourselves into a pickle. Honestly.
Well, I do know that in Salt Lake County, for example, and I know it's different, but I went to a restaurant today, for example, that requires you, and most do now, requires you to wear a mask to enter the restaurant until you're seated at your table and you can take the mask off. And I would say that, the responsible thing to do would be to require masks, at least make a statement that you require masks, so that most people will.
I looked up the Utah Department of Agriculture requirement for farmers markets. It was updated June 30th, 2020 for COVID. And it says 1 hand washing station or hand sanitizer station is required for every 5 booths. Booths must be 10 feet apart. Farmers markets are required to enforce CDC social distancing recommendations of at least 6 feet apart and provide marked spacing to ensure compliance. Farmers markets should encourage tap or online payment options when possible. Vendors shall change gloves and sanitize point of sale equipment between transactions. All vendors are required to wear gloves. Those who collect money must not handle food items. The farmers market area shall be delineated to provide shoppers and vendors with a 6-foot social distance. Otherwise, vendors must wear a face mask. A separate entrance and exit is required on opposite sides of farmers market area to create a linear flow of pedestrian traffic. And it goes on and on. I don't know if you want me to read all of it. Do you want me to?
No, that's okay.
Anyway, and so I think those are great.
Mayor, can I make a suggestion?
Please.
So you have a great asset in your own backyard with Dr. Mike Kennedy, who's been hired by the county to give suggestions. We actually had him come down here and visit our building. We made a few changes because of his suggestions, and maybe give him a call and have him look this over and see what his recommendations and suggestions are. It may be a little bit, again, I'm just guessing. It's an open air market. There may be some different requirements as opposed to being in an enclosed restaurant or a grocery store or a Costco. But I mean, I'm sure Dr. Kennedy would be more than happy to come down and talk to you about that.
Thanks, Brian. Okay. Any further questions?
So are we talking about approving a conditional use permit for the September 19th and October 10th and giving those both a try this year and then see what it looks like next year? Or
I think we're definitely approving the first, and then I'd leave it up to council to make part of the motion if you want to predicate the second on the success of the first. But it's up to you to make the motion if you want. Jason, did you have anything?
No, I just wonder if you ask any of your neighbors if you could use any of their parking. Have you had discussions with them on temporary parking?
Around the studio, I haven't, but I could.
I mean, that's one thing that would just cause a problem. I can see is.
Well, and I know they've had their, I've just talked to a couple of them just about purple parking and stuff like that. So they've never brought any complaints to me about my studio or Oasis. But yeah, we've talked about purple, because purple is parking in our parking lot too. And I really, well, I won't say that on the record, but anyway.
what's it like on Saturdays at Purple? Are they
Yeah,
full,
exactly.
or do they have
No,
capacity?
I don't see anyone. And that's my thing is when I'm not, my hours, are very in the studio. I'm like, I'm fine if people park there when I'm not in business. When I'm not open, it's fine. I can share. Anyway.
Okay.
How would it work if we wanted to Greg's point, we wanted to say, you approve, for September 19th, after which, either they'd have to come back to the council for a second one showing it's right, or if there's no complaints by the city directed towards her, then for this thing, then October 10th one. I'm trying to think to myself how to do that so that I would hate for it to be a bad experience and all the people were frustrated. We've already said you could do a second one.
Yeah.
Is my concern.
I think something along those lines is appropriate to say, as long as we get through the first one, and not only was it well attended, but that the crowd was managed, the parking was managed, and all the things that we're concerned about are managed effectively. And we could get to that point and say, well, wow, it was really well attended, but the parking and the space wasn't enough. You could easily move that event over to the park for the October date and still have a successful event. I think that when I say predicated on the second or on the first, not necessarily whether you can or not, but if any adjustments need to be made in order to accommodate the second.
I think that's fair.
I don't know how to say that. I don't know how to say that.
I'm just
Maybe if you, just a suggestion, I mean, we can probably gauge the staff if it's a problem. If we think it's something that needs to come back to city council, we could bring it back prior to that day.
Yeah.
See, you want to try it? You try it.
I'll try it.
Good.
I make a motion that we approve the outdoors farmer market at the Balance Studio location at 195 East on a trial basis for September 19th with a secondary date or a second date of October 10th with the approval of city staff after the September 19th event.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Longlot and a second by Greg Gordon. Bonnie, are you with us? And were you able to get that? I know we have it recorded, but.
I got it.
Okay. Does everybody understand the motion? You need it read back.
It was just approval. I mean, there's other things after that.
Want to
Sure, but I don't think we have to approve the business license. That the city staff can do that.
They required in the motion, no.
Well, so I would hope that we wouldn't have to require it. Wouldn't it just be a normal, it should be taken care of? Or is additional use something that we have to require?
I think the business license can be on its own.
It should be a business, it should
You don't
be,
think we need a conditional use?
A business license, it should be required with a conditional use.
I'm happy to put that in there,
There's already a business license in place.
but not for this type of thing, because if we do look at a farmer's market thing, there, in these conditional uses, I would
There's food and
find just, let me find that.
I might have misunderstood the question. I think a business license is required, but it can just go through the normal process, so.
Yeah. So it is not the same business license we've issued to Dance Studio. It would be a seasonal sales. A seasonal sale must have a business license obtained from Alpine City. So it is a conditional use requirement. So if we approve the conditional use, it should stand a reason you would have to get a business license.
Again, that can be, the staff can take care of that piece of it. They can take care of the conditional use permit and also the business license aspect.
Anything I see in the conditional use that is required. Now, when we move to mass gatherings, if it's a mass gathering, there's a whole another list of issues. I guess if you want to discuss that, if we feel like it's a mass gathering. Okay.
Say the first one shouldn't be. It didn't mean go differently after the first one.
Yeah, we'll see how it is.
Correct. And it may eventually just be something that gets out of control. That there's just too many people coming.
Yeah. I'm excited to have this to see how it goes. And I would imagine that the second time will be a little bigger than the first. That's the way I would imagine will happen. People will hear about it and then decide.
That would help us understand the scope of it.
Yeah, yeah. And so, this is something that the council is willing to look at long-term to see, what direction we want to go. There is some, for our comments earlier, the previous discussions have been regarding a city-run event. So we would want some time to evaluate if that's the direction we want to go, or if the private way is a better way to go. And so these are all things that we'll be looking at, and we really wish you luck in organizing a good event.
So we haven't voted on it.
Nope.
But maybe we do need to request that she follow the county farmers market guidelines.
Yeah, I think that should probably be put into
part of the motion. I would amend that motion to include the guidelines for farmers market for the COVID-19 be followed.
The update.
Do you see anything in those guidelines that are problematic?
I don't think.
Okay, I'll second that. And you're okay with that? Okay. Okay, so we have a motion on the table. Without any further question, we will entertain a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You have unanimous approval. Thank you for coming in tonight.
You're welcome.
Okay. Let's move on to staff reports.
We got the municipal recreation.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
I'll make a motion on that.
You're welcome to do so. Are you ready?
You're not going to make a motion to approve the 2020 municipal recreation grant. It's a no-brainer.
Yes, it is.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Jason Thielen, a second by Lon Lott. Any discussion on the grant?
With that, I probably should tell you what we were thinking.
I'll get it.
It's not in the packet because the basketball court at Burgess Park and we striped the ball lines on there. The surface is beyond its warranty, but for whatever reason, the north end, it's coming up. Anyway, the company agreed that it should be doing that in that time frame. They agreed to give us a big discount to resurface that, so we thought it was going to apply.
I think for the past few years, we've dedicated that to the Central Corridor Trail, right? has anything been done on that trail? Well, nothing's been done on any of the trails this year. It's becoming noticeable. I guess we've really missed the Trails Day. But that's a different topic. So you're comfortable that we'll have enough money to go back to the central corridor later and make those improvements?
We have other money already in the budget, so projects and things, so.
Okay, good. Good. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. We have unanimous approval. Okay, now we'll move to staff reports. Austin, I'm sorry, not Austin. Chief William, do you have anything you'd like to talk about?
I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Thank you. David Church, do you have anything for us?
No. I understand you're well on your way to finding my replacement, so I've mentally checked out.
And as usual, we appreciate your candor, David.
I always speak the truth to power.
Okay, Austin.
Yeah, I have a couple things here. So one, I just want to get on your radar that we do have a zone change proposal coming down the pipe here in the next planning commission meeting next week. This is in the area on East Mountain Drive and Watkins Lane. That area over there, it's properties owned by the Pierce brothers. They would like to rezone a portion of their property to the CR 20,000 zone. And so we will be holding a public hearing on that next week. Also, let's see, I have some other updates here. So the Utah Valley Visioning Project, which is a big project that looks at the interconnectivity and just the future, they kind of look at the big picture of Valley. So and Salt Lake, I should say. So just the entire Wasatch Front. They're looking at like the next 50 years. What is it going to look like? How can we plan for that? How can we build our freeways for that? How can we plan, build our cities for that? And so they have actually requested that they would like to meet with the mayor and some key staff members. And so I'm sure we'll be working with them here in the near future to set something up. They'd like to meet sometime now, in between now and the end of September. So that's a quick update. And then finally, we've received a request from the Operation Underground Railroad. They would like to do some type of a fundraiser activity, and they're looking at Creekside Park as a potential destination for that. And so it would be a large event that would include food trucks, booths, and other things to fundraise money and be kind of a family event. And so, I don't know, they didn't say anything about social distancing or COVID-19 in their proposal, but I mean, it sounds like a big gathering, and that would be one of my concerns about it. But anyways, they're proposing that the date that they wanted, the 19th, there are some conflicts. There are some pavilions that are preserved, that have been reserved that day. So they may go and look for another location, but just wanted to make you aware of that as well. So that's all I have for the city council.
Have we ever rented the park out to a fundraising group or a large group like that? I don't recall that being part of our plan for that space.
Not that there's been a couple of, there's been several 5Ks and some different things, some different groups like that.
Yeah.
But I think on a smaller scale, it probably won't be close here.
It sounds like this would be a mass gathering potentially, huh?
I think anything major like this, we bring the city council.
Yeah. Yeah, I would question whether the park is a place we want to hold those types of events. I'm not saying I don't, but I think we need to evaluate what we want that park to be for, because if you're giving it to that group on a large scale for a day, that means you're cutting the public out of it to some degree if they're not participating in the event. And it's a public park and open space, so I think it's worth discussion.
Can I ask a question, Mayor? Did, Austin, did we hear any more from the symphony on their request, the TSO?
Yes, yes. So the symphony, actually, they're planning on moving forward with that event. And so they do plan to do that. It will be open and free to the public. And so they're not going to charge anything for the event, though they will set up some type of a thing where money could be donated for a good cause, but they do want to proceed forward with that event as we discussed in the previous meeting.
Thank you, Austin. Bonnie, did you have anything? Bonnie?
I don't have anything.
Okay. And Shane?
Okay, we will work to upgrade our AV system for the next meeting. First item.
I know we have somebody scheduled to come in, right?
Yeah, we have a meeting on Thursday with the company that's looking to update the entire system in this room. And
Shane,
yes.
can you speak up?
Yes, I can.
And Shane, that's money that we can spend out of the COVID relief fund, right?
That's correct.
And so it's a perfect opportunity to do that because it will facilitate more meetings that are electronic that will help us reach the public.
Yeah, and I think that's why it took a little longer than they originally anticipated because multiple cities are asking for their help on this. So we're meeting on that. I'm 100% sure it won't be done by the next meeting, but hopefully we would have a proposal to show the council by then. So let's see. The Blue Bison hearing, hearing officer has been selected. The attorneys are involved. They're reviewing the record to make sure everybody's satisfied that the record is complete. And then they're working on a date. So we don't have that date yet, but it is in process.
So we had 40 days to establish the date, correct?
We have 40 days, to schedule a hearing, but it's kind of unless if everyone's in agreement that it's being worked on, and David has told us that it's okay. Yeah. Okay. So that's what's happening now. Everyone's on the same page.
And the attorney or the hearing officer is accepted?
Yes. Yeah, he's working with the attorneys on both sides on that. So that's about all I have tonight.
Okay, thank you. Lon, do you have anything?
I do not.
Okay, great.
So on the first day of school, as well as today, there's apparently a backup that went from Healy Boulevard all the way down to Timberline. So there's
it's a real problem, and I think that traffic and the road, the light and the road construction are two big variables in that problem.
No, you're referring to Timberline.
Timberline, and it's a full mile of backup apparently.
For Timberline.
Heading to Timberline? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant it was backed up to Timberline to get to.
That's right. Going in, this is in the morning, and after school seems to be a little more spread out.
It is different, and the principal actually reached out to me to see if we could meet. It was after, I think, the first day of school, and I didn't realize they had a new principal there. Anyway, it gave us a good opportunity to meet him. He wanted to meet to see if there was something that could be done to alleviate traffic. We did have a project going on the side streets in Twin Rivers down near the school, but it shouldn't have really impacted traffic. That's all complete now. But I guess what has changed this year are both schools start at the same time.
Charter school?
Actually, the Westfield and Timberline start at the same time, where in the past they've been off the start time a little bit from what he told me. And so I told him that the school district possibly made a mistake having two schools so close together. And we have more access out there now than we've had, we've had it for a couple of years now. But, anyway, so we're just in this dialogue trying to think of things that can But that is a difference. And that's something the school would have to address.
But we also have the impact, one of the big impacts is the roundabout, just getting into the roundabout. And you've got a lot of traffic inbound for the charter school.
Yeah.
How are those hours matching up now? Because the charter school had changed their hours for a while.
I'm not sure what their start time is.
Maybe it's worthwhile meeting with between the three schools and the staff and myself, and we can maybe address that, because if we're not staggering it, that's a perfect storm right there in the middle of town, and nobody's moving in any direction.
Mountainville must have an 8 o'clock start time, because every day I come into work, I drive through that, and we are seeing backing. I mean, the backing up, it's going all the way down Canyon, so it goes through the roundabout, and traffic is bumper to bumper all the way down Canyon, and it goes past the Stake Center. And I don't know how far down it goes, but there has been noticeable traffic there in the mornings as well.
Meaning how the magnitude of the traffic problem we have here in the mornings with a community that's as small as Alpine is, it doesn't really make sense. It doesn't calculate. So I think we really do need to get with all three principals of the school and see what we can do to mitigate that. I know that we're now into the school year, but hopefully it's not too late to make some adjustments. If that would help us a lot.
I think there have been some additional bus routes canceled, or if they haven't been, it's
People aren't using the buses.
people did put on notice, and then I think there's some of that too. More parents driving their kids instead of sending them on buses.
I went over there today to look at it firsthand after school at Timberline, and I talked to the administrator, teacher, and she said that their principal had requested a different start time and wasn't allowed due to the rigidity of the busing schedules. But but apparently today was a lot better than yesterday. And one thing that happened is their principal emailed all the parents yesterday, and that helped give a little order, like there's 2 ways they can pull in, at least. So it may get better, but there may be a handful of things that we could do to kind of lessen the confusion around street parking or school zone. Some of those things.
It won't help right at the schools, but eventually the Ranch Drive connection to Alpine Highway will be.
Okay, thanks, Greg. It's a big topic. Jason?
Just a couple things. I just want to know if this council's thought, obviously people are financially suffering because of COVID, and there's been a real need at food pantries for food. Some local ones, I had some individuals from the American Fork one come to me and ask about the possibility of putting a food collector drop-off box, so to speak, at the animal shelter's old snow oasis pad. I don't know how that would work with our ordinances and stuff, but they are in need of it. They want to advertise to individuals who are able to help and have a drop-off place where people can pick it up.
Yeah,
I talked to the owner of that property,
and they're okay with it. They're fine with it.
I owe Lincoln a Watkins a call on this. He had texted me. I was in a meeting. There previously was a drop off at Paula's property, probably before you owned it.
Oh.
Right there on the corner, and that probably wasn't the ideal location because it was kind of in a side triangle. I don't see a problem with it.
Yeah, it seems like a good thing to.
So would his thing to come to the council, or does he need to come to the council? Can he go straight to
I
the
think
council?
we can just take care of it administratively. I don't remember this other one coming through council.
And the animal hospital is okay with it.
Right. They've talked to them, so they are temporarily, for sure.
I think that's the only issue. It's on private property, and as long as it's in accordance with setbacks and any sight line issues.
How big is it? I mean,
They just said bins, so I don't know what bins mean.
so just, okay.
The one that was up here before, I would say was probably like a 5x5 bin or something like that. It wasn't huge. Once in a while, you'd see the people deciding to drop all
Yeah.
of their stuff.
Yeah, I think that would be the biggest concern is how often they collect. So it doesn't look so jumpy everywhere and falling over,
especially
if it's
right
so
there.
full.
Yeah, hopefully it would fill up quickly.
Okay, another thing, I would like to somehow just think is outside the box and make some traction on getting more pickleballs in the city, pickleball courts. We talked about it, but I drove by through Burgess the other day and I'm like, it's here. It's packed with people at night. And every court was taken and there was lines all the way out. And I'm like, we need to get rid of our, I mean, I wouldn't say this because I'll get in trouble, but we need to get rid of our tennis courts because we're getting I was kidding, that was a joke, but hear me out on this. We have 10 people in there. Only have 10 people, 8 people in there versus 2 people. What I'm just saying is, when I went by there, I'm sure they're all getting used, but there were literally, I'm guessing 40 people there for pickleball, and there were 2 people playing on the tennis courts. Don't get rid of tennis courts, but we probably need more pickleball courts in our city. And I think we need to start thinking of that as a priority. We have some funds available, whether it's at Creekside, whether it's additional ones at Burgess, but boy.
Didn't we have part of this discussion in budget season?
We did. We included some money in there, I think, for we didn't pick a location or anything like that. We just put some money in and we'll be working on it.
Okay. Just a guess, when do you think we might have an idea on location and start?
I think it'd be awesome to have some at Creekside, and I've kind of looked and thought about it. Possibly, and I don't know how this affects Alpine Days, kind of the layout from past Alpine Days, but possibly west of the basketball courts. There's also the area north of the east parking lot. It's across the street, so they have to park in the parking lot, walk across the street, but we have an area over there that's not.
I'd vote for that one.
I don't know what the residents right there would think.
What about right here?
Is that
We
space
have the
doesn't
cell
get used
tower
more?
out there, but we have a pretty big area of grass over there. Would that be something we could incorporate?
Roger Bennett will feel like we're just piling it on.
I think we ought to really look at that north corner. That's been sort of a dead area.
Over here.
Yeah, and Creekside.
Creekside.
No,
Creekside.
Oh,
yeah.
that north.
I don't know,
North area, it's like, nobody really even does anything on it. It's on the other side of everything.
But it is close to houses.
It is. I see
The
people
lights.
gather there once in a while, just kind of, because it's a
But
quiet.
it is not used.
I think they're all great ideas. Talking to neighbors by Burgess, they do hear it. It is a louder game than you can hear it for maybe blocks, depending on the.
Yeah,
So.
and we did get those comments when we, at one time, behind the 300 North Well, we looked at a city shop there and between that and the well house, about putting a pickleball court there. And those were some of the comments that we received. Really hear these comments all the time. But every city that I'm aware of that has courts, it's a line way to play.
It's no question about the popularity of it. There's a lot of people who want to play.
Well, good, so we have funds coming in the plan. Lastly, if I may, I would like to really, I brought up to you, Mayor, to modify the trail on the east side of the water tower up there to go along the property line and put some type of a bench slash.
You mean the cell tower?
The cell tower, yeah, just east of the cell tower. But we have a trail there, but if we were, I really think it would be beneficial to our neighborhoods if we took the trail and went down along the
Whole fence line.
the whole fence line, and right there where it goes out into the property area, stick some type of a bench slash, Alpine map showing the Alpine trails, and just create something there like that.
Yeah.
I
obviously have reasons behind that more than just that, but
Right up at on the east side.
right next to the shooting range.
On our whole property line.
Yeah. I'm good with that.
And we did put money in the budget for, it wasn't detailed out or fleshed out, but for a project right there.
Wonderful. And so when do you think we might start something like that?
I think what we need to do is kind of plan it through this fall and winter.
Start cutting it in the spring.
But if we can get that on the calendar between then, so we can actually start in the spring, that would be pretty cool. Yeah. That's it for me.
Yeah, and that's one of those items that could be forgotten if we don't
Easily.
keep on it.
Exactly.
There are a few of those out there that we've made decisions we've made in the past and then we kind of lose track of it and nothing gets done. It's always been a good idea, but we just didn't get started. So I think you make a really good point. Let's just keep that on the front burner.
Maybe we can put it on the calendar for Austin to bring it, some ideas for us into us. I mean, to your point exactly.
Yeah, Austin and Will. I think Will should be a big part of that because he's been really great at cutting in trails. Really, I think he knows what we're trying to accomplish there. Okay. Yes, Ed, come on up to the mic.
Oh, just a quick comment on that because you mentioned the map, right? And I would
Would you
just
please introduce yourself one more
Oh,
time?
Ed Bush, because I got my mask on. Ed Bush, 1463 Box Elder Drive. I was just going to make a comment that if we're going to use, and I think a trail map is a great idea. Let's just make sure the trail map is up to date.
Yeah.
The one up at the rodeo grounds is not up to date. And then there was one place in the Bowery, but that somehow is gone now. But that's an older one that's not up to date with the trails that are in the park.
We've been working with a landscape architect to make some really nice signs to show that we put in several locations there and a tree calls that would show all the trails and the trail names and some distances and stuff like that. So these would be nice, not paper that are going to fade in
Yeah.
6 months.
And Shane, you and I can get together on that too, because I've come across some signs that Draper has done at Corner Canyon and other cities have done. I think that they've done a really nice job with that signage. And everybody can see today, the trails are getting probably, I would guess, 4 times the use that they've been in the past. Every Saturday when you go out there, you have to get up pretty early to keep the crowds. And throughout the week, I'm seeing Lambert is crowded. It's actually got crowds in it. And so COVID, I think if anything, the COVID has done that creates a healthier environment is just pushing people outdoors to get them out and on the trail systems.
So the first or second city council in October, if we can work, whether it be Austin or not, to try to start that process, get it on the agenda and begin the layout and planning of what that would look like for that bench / sign / trail along the line.
And when is the next trail committee meeting?
Not sure. We're actually trying to work to kind of formalize that trail committee.
Yeah. We talked about that a few minutes
Yeah,
ago.
we talked about it just a couple photos yesterday morning. We're working on that. Try to get on a regular schedule like city council.
So to Jason's point, can we just kind of put that as an agenda item on our like our first part of October meeting?
And then we talked about having them come in and give an update or presentation maybe 3 times a year. Maybe they could do it end of summer or early fall readout or something.
Yeah. I'm hoping that we get a chance to put together some kind of a trail day. And to that point, I'm sorry, Jason, are you done?
I'm done.
Okay. Will, and I need to get back to Will because I just realized today that I never returned his call. He gave me a nice voicemail message. And I think it was what's the new high school? Sky
Ridge.
Sky Ridge had come out, and I may have the school wrong, so I'll apologize in advance if that's the case. But Will kind of gave me a report of what they had done. They had spent some time on the trails. We didn't have our official trail day, but Will helped coordinate with the high school mountain biking team, which is kind of part of our spoken agreement that we have. You know, as you all know or should know, each high school team is committed to giving us 1 full day in Lambert Park. That may or may not be on trail day, but so we can tap into that as a resource. Lone Peak, Sky Ridge, TG, American Fork, they've all made the commitment to do that. And so we're still able to accomplish a few things in the park with that kind of manpower. But boy, riding the trails now, I get hit in the head and face with a lot more branches than I used to. And almost got knocked out off my bike by one of them. So we really do miss that effort that Will has put together the last several years with the help of a lot of other people as well. Other thing that I wanted to bring up is we had this discussion in our safety meeting, which was attended by both Councilmember Thielen and Lott when we talked about the fire department. I was hoping that Reed would be here tonight and could kind of give us that similar rundown, but for the information of the council and the public, we do typically every year send out firemen and equipment to California to fight fires there. One of the benefits that we get off that is California pays us pretty well to show up. And we've been able to fund some capital expenses through those monies that are harvested that way. The other side of that, and Jason brought this up in the meeting, is that, we're also putting some wear and tear on our equipment. And where, if we have equipment here, typical day or typical week in Alpine, it gets fairly minimal use. So our equipment lasts longer because of that. They may get, I think we have an average of 1.2 calls a day on our fire equipment. And so when it goes out to California, it's working hard for the time it's out there. And I think the last time was 16 days, if I remember the number right. And it's working all day, 16 days, or most of it. And so there is some wear and tear that occurs on our equipment. And so we need to evaluate how much wear and tear happens versus the money that we bring in. Are we staying ahead of the game? If we're not ahead of the game, is the best decision. Now, the other side of that is, do we want to help our neighbors in California when they need it? And obviously we want to do that because there are times where we need the same help and we get it. So those are just some discussions that are happening on the Lone Peak Public Safety Committee. I think it's worth looking at, and I think council should be kept up to speed on that discussion.
And that's actually where Chief Thompson is right now.
I wondered if he was.
I saw him on the news the other night.
When I said that he wasn't on, he texted me and he was on the call, but he had for service. So
Okay, yeah. Well, it's a mess over there right now.
Yeah.
So that's just a little bit of an update for the public consumption on those safety meetings, which, by the way, also to the public, if you're listening in or you're here in the room, those safety meetings are held on the second Wednesday of every, I have to keep remembering that, of every month. And they are open to the public just like this meeting is. And there's a public comment period during those meetings as well. So you're all encouraged to come and listen to service happening. Yeah, thank you. Highland City Hall is where those are located. Okay, that's all I had for this evening. Unless there's anything else we need to cover, we'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Lon, second by Jason. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is adjourned, or is passed. We are adjourned.